All right. Welcome, everyone, to another Shifting Schools webinar. I'm so excited to be back with a pretty geeky episode today as we talk about 3 Google Chrome extensions for presentation design for you and your students to use in the classroom. Of course, I'm joined today by my friend, my colleague, Tricia Friedman, our DEIJ/SEL expert in the house with us today. Tricia, thank you again for joining me and going through some of our favorite Google Chrome extensions today. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Happy to be with you. And Jeff, of course, today's presentation and the free guide that this presentation talks about comes from one of the questions from our valued newsletter audience. And again, folks, you can subscribe to the free Shifting Schools newsletter anytime. You can head over to shiftingschools.com. When you respond to our newsletter, Jeff and I read every single response. We do our absolute best to be as responsive as possible. And we noticed that we were getting a lot of questions around this idea of presentation design, of, as you were saying, like geeky little things that you can experiment with that have, I think, really big impact on the learning experience. So the free guide that goes along with this, as you're listening to today's conversation, if you're thinking, oh gosh, I don't know that I'm going to remember everything that Jeff and Tricia talked about, inside the free guide, there's more video content where we have all of those reminders. So if you're also thinking, oh, I know a colleague of mine would have appreciated this, great. Send them the link to the free guide. They can check it out. We walk through, again, the reasons that we wanted to focus on the Google Chrome extensions that you'll hear us talk about today.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that makes our free guides, different than other free guides is Tricia has spent hours, as anybody who's made videos knowing, putting videos inside the free guide. So you're going to download the PDF, and then inside the PDF are videos that walk you through how to install that extension, or how you might use this, and what does it look like once you're inside for today's presentation inside Google Slides. So that's great as well. So we're going to get going here in just a second. Before we get started, though, I do want to mention today's webinar sponsor, Quizalize. A shout out to them. Thank you to Quizalize.com for being a sponsor of Shifting Schools. You're going to be hearing more about them in the coming months. But right now, because it is Thanksgiving week here in the US, which means Black Friday, and anybody here in the US and probably around the world is getting bombarded right now with Black Friday sales. But with our sponsorship and our partnership with Quizalize.com, down at the bottom of your screen, you are seeing that right now, between now and December 4th, you can get 80% off their premium subscription. That is 1 year of premium subscription to Quizalize and everything that Quizalize offers for $14 is what it works out to be. 14 bucks. It's like $1.17 or less than $1.20 a month. And you get premium access for an entire year for $14. You can't find this deal anywhere else other than with our partnership here at Shifting Schools. So really appreciate them for offering that to you. Again, all you have to do is go over and sign up for a free account. And then when you upgrade to their premium edition, use the code Shifting Schools, all one word, all capitalized. So thank you to Quizalize for being a sponsor. A big shout out to them, and hopefully you appreciate what they're being able to do with you as well, offering you as well. With that, Tricia, let's get into today's 3 Chrome extensions. And our first one here is Flat Icon. Talk to me about Flat Icon, Tricia.
Okay, so I'm going to walk you through sort of 2 of the reasons that I really love using this Google Chrome extension. I think, maybe a decade ago, a few folks were familiar with their website, which is also great. With the Google Chrome extension, when I'm working directly within Google Slides, once I've enabled that Google Chrome extension, essentially it gives me this fantastic searchable database of all different icons. So Jeff, if you can kind of go through the next 2 slides, I'll show you what that actually looks like in action. So I like to keep my slides when I'm working really with learners of all ages. I like to keep a minimum of text. There's 2 reasons I like to do that. I think a lot of text on a slide visually is overwhelming, is distracting. If I'm trying to talk to a group of students or if I'm leading a professional learning session, I don't want people making that decision of, do I read from the slide or do I listen to what Trisha is saying? I want the engagement to be, really the conversation in the room, right? The slides are there as a guide. So in my slides and in all of our shifting school slides, it's very common that we have a lot of downloadable resources that we include. Now, sometimes when I'm going through slides, it may not be obvious that the resource is actually there to click on and download. So I use a nice little link icon. I can even select the color that I want to use. But here's the thing, Jeff. Whenever we have a downloadable, I use that same icon again and again and again because I'm kind of trying to lighten that cognitive load for the audience of, okay, right, I know what that is. I've seen it before. Trisha pointed it out. And now I'm just going to expect whenever I see that icon, I know exactly what to do. So it's kind of like a little bit of a mini routine that I'm setting up with my learning system. If you don't like that particular icon, you can pick a different one. But for me, the key is in being consistent when you use it every single time. The other reason that there are many reasons that I love this Google Chrome extension, but as Jeff will show us on the next slide, it also really engages the designer of the content to think very carefully about what is it that we're setting up. During our last free webinar, where we were talking about single slide pathways, we took you through this system, which basically sets learners up to learn with podcasts. And there's protocols, there's reflective routines, there's a community based note template. So for each of the steps, I have an icon. Now, for me as the designer, when I'm picking out those icons, it's also asking me to think really critically, what's happening in this step? So, for example, the last final step, we've got that cup of tea icon. I went through and I'm thinking, what's the really important part of this process in step 6 that I want people to understand? It's the community. Now, I'm a huge tea drinker. Jeff, you know this about me. We talk about our favorite teas very often. So that's the icon that I went with. But I just find on the opposite end, I need to think about my message and I need to think about what's the most important thing that I want to communicate here.
Yeah, and I think that idea, I mean, every educator knows the power of routines. And we need to also be thinking in our digital spaces, what are the routines we're setting up in our digital spaces? And that's really what this is about. Find an icon that appeals to you, that you know students are going to see over and over again, and use it as part of your learning routine. It's just a great way, the more you actually change the different icons, the more confusing it becomes for all learners. So find your icons, pick them, choose them, use them over and over again. The nice thing is once you have them inside a Google slide, it's just as simple copy paste, copy paste. You can move them around to different slides and duplicate them all you want. So just, again, I love this. There's so many great icons out there. You don't have to just, have the built-in arrows that come inside of Google Slides. Flat Icon is a great resource for that. Let's talk a little bit about Unsplash. This, I think you and I both, when we're building presentations, we understand the power of images. I do a lot of presentations with teachers around the power of images, around how the brain works. What do we know about neuroscience and the way the brain works around images? And Unsplash allows you to have access to some incredible images. Tricia, talk a little bit about this extension.
So Unsplash, yeah, has, for a very long time been one of my must go to tried and trusted Google Chrome extensions. So you can see that in this example of the slide, there's a big, beautiful image of a rapid, like a running rapid river. So I like to make sure that my first slide is always just full screen image. And I do that because I think it sets the tone, right? I'm a big believer in the role that wonder and awe should play in presentations. So for me, I'm going to have that image up on the screen before I say a word, before anything happens. I want the audience, I want participants, I want students to kind of engage that little 5% of curiosity and be thinking, I wonder what that image has to do with what we're gonna be talking about. I think that that's, if I'm a participant and I come and I sit down and there's 50 words on a slide, I've gotta be honest, like, A, either feels a little bit overwhelming, or B, it just lacks that emotional element to it. But when I sit down and the presenter has an interesting, engaging image, I start asking questions. What's this going to have to do with that? And then often when I find that unsplash image, I'm going to carry that metaphor out through the rest of the presentation. So the first image was that running rapid. And then when I'm working through this presentation, we have this picture that really puts the participant in the kayak, right? And we'll be talking about how we co-navigate together. So I will often search through Unsplash, find an image, and then I will be thinking, how can I carry that same tone and message and theme through the rest of the presentation? So it's a nice visual reminder. It's a kind of a thematic element. And again, it asks me to think as the designer of learning, what's the message? What's the metaphor? And for this particular presentation, I really wanted participants and I to be talking about co-navigating, about how, yeah, when you're on the water, the weather can change, there can be different obstacles and surprises, and we have to work together inside of our vessel.
Yeah, one of the things that, I talk about, and I love this because we're not going to get into the neuroscience behind images and the way the brain works today. That's not this webinar, but I will put this out there because this is one of the things that I talk with teachers about all the time. And I need teachers to take a deep breath because this just is going to hit a little bit hard. But are you ready for this, educators? Clip art is dead. No more clip art anywhere in your slides. Clip art went out with the CD. We now have places like Unsplash that give us beautiful imageries. And when we learn more about neuroscience, when we learn more about how the brain works, we understand how using gorgeous, beautiful images like this support the brain in learning. And then when you take images and you're doing exactly what Tricia is saying, and you are able to create a theme, and this theme, if you can look over to the left there, you can see that the whole theme is around water, right? The waterfall, and now you're in a kayak, and the next image under there that you can kind of see on the screen has water in it as well, right? There's a theme to it. But we're not talking little images. And the other thing I want you to notice is it's not we're taking little images like a little clip art and putting it down in the corner. Do you remember what was the Screen Bean dude? Do you remember Screen Bean back in the day, Tricia? He was like on every slide that every teacher did. Clip
Yes.
art is dead. Breathe through that, educators. Let that sit in and find gorgeous images. It's research based. You are supporting the brain. It allows kids to focus. You get to tell a theme that supports learning at all age levels. So stop using clip art and start using big, gorgeous images on your slides with your students. Just give it a go and see if it makes a difference. See if you get even kids leaning in when they see these big, beautiful images. A lot of times that we get, right? To your point, Tricia, it sparks curiosity. What is next? What's the story that goes with this? And it's so, so powerful. And that's the reason why we really like Unsplash as our added extension. Talk a little bit about what are some of the other reasons why we like Unsplash around the licensing? Because I think this is a huge part of it too, that teachers, especially as we talk about media literacy and stuff, that is good for every educator to know.
Yeah, and, I think some teachers will say, "Well, I was using clip art because it's open use." Okay, yep, that's okay. Unsplash has right there on their website, they talk about how their images are made to be used freely, and this is a really good conversation piece with students, right? All of the photos can be downloaded for free for commercial, non-commercial purposes. There is no permission needed. However, Unsplash also talks and walks you through how you can give attribution, and it's an interesting conversation I think, for you to show to students what might it mean actually for us to connect with the photographer, because you can see on the image, here's who took it. So if you are using it, if you've got students who are putting together digital magazines, right, and you want to use some of the Unsplash images, could you maybe reach out and send that photographer, hey, here's how we used your photos. Thanks so much for helping us do that. I think it opens up a really great conversation with students to be had around why are certain licenses in existence? Why might some creators actually want their images to be open use? And what does it mean to take that extra little step and say thank you to them when you're using
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, that's a great, it's so good. That's one of the reasons why we really like Unsplash. Michael has a question over in the comments. When it comes to flat icon and Unsplashed, can you download the icons to use in other programs?
So if by other programs you mean, can I use it across the board with Google Workspace, like in Google Docs? I'm guessing Michael might mean. Yeah, absolutely, you can. Can I go to, if I'm in PowerPoint, I can't use a Google Chrome extension because it just doesn't convert that way. I could, however, go to Unsplash's website. I could go to the Flaticon website and then use them in a platform like that. So if you're thinking, oh, I'm not at a Google school, but can I make use of these tools? The answer is yes, just not through the extension, through their website. So again, I think that what both of those tools have done to make any kind of presentation just visually a lot more dynamic is great. So it's time for us to talk about our third and final Google Chrome extension, which Jeff, you and I have also used this across not just Google Slides, inside Google Docs. You can use it inside Forms as well. The third and final one is Moat. And Jeff, I know that you are a huge fan of Moat as well. What I love it for is that it's really going to take a presentation, and even if you're delivering your work live or in person, it's going to make it asynchronous. It's going to give an added level of support. Maybe somebody joined late, maybe a student is homesick, maybe you know that participants are going to return to the slides. Once you have enabled Moat, you'll have a nice little purple icon, and then anywhere in your slides, you click it and you start recording. And the thing that's great is it's going to leave that little icon on the slide. You can have it as big, as small, you can move it around on the slide. So in this example, I have a protocol. Now, maybe I actually want to explain to participants, here's why we're using the protocol. So my audio explainer, it might be a little bit more about my why. So I could use it in a variety of ways. I could actually walk through the directions, but I could also add it almost like a footnote and kind of do a behind the scenes. Hey, here's the intention behind this. Here's how I've used this in other situations. But this has been so beneficial. I think we have all worked at, different times in the year where that there's going to be a lot of students who are absent, or there's going to be a lot of teachers who can't make that meeting. This is a really seamless way, I think, to plan both for live and for people who are not necessarily attending live. And then I will also say adding that audio element that is voice, there's a personal touch to that, and those of you who are co-designing with somebody else, I might actually just leave this little audio message here. Maybe Jeff and I are planning together. I explain, hey, Jeff, here's what I'm thinking we might do with this slide. What do you think? And maybe I actually deliver the slide the way that I would deliver it in a session so that Jeff can hear and he can sort of say, oh, this is what's not clear to me. Or, what, actually, maybe your choice of wording, maybe you want to switch it out for this. So it's also a really great way to co-plan a lesson or a presentation together too.
Yeah, there's so many ways that to use Moat. And the thing that I love about Moat is it keeps popping up in more and more of the Google Workspace tools. It's now inside of Gmail. So if you want to, you can actually send an email as a note. I have seen schools use this. If you have parents who maybe speak another language, you can have an interpreter come in and actually send an email in the language that you need those parents to be actually to hear. It's inside Google Forms now. So you can actually set up a Google Form quiz where students have to actually speak. I'm thinking world languages where students have to, repeat a sentence or translate a sentence and actually record the answer as an audio file. Moat blows my mind. I love this extension so much. I'm also very excited that they are a partner. They've been a longtime partner with us here at Shifting Schools. You can find all of the latest offers from all of our partners there at the bottom of your screen. If you go to shiftingschools.com/offers, you'll see the latest offers from all of our sponsors. But when it comes to just, creating engaging content, you've got to be using Moat. If you are in a Google Workspace school, please just install it and start playing with it. The way that you can leave comments off to the side of a Google Doc to give students feedback where they get to hear the teacher's voice and you get to talk about the great things about their paper or their essay and also the one or two things that they need to work on in a true feedback form. It's so incredible the things that you can do with Mote. A lot of the work I'm doing right now with schools is in high flex classrooms, right? High flex classrooms where you might still have students who are away or students who are learning online and have students in your class. Mote is a great way to do exactly what Tricia said. In my classroom, of course, I'm going to explain. Kids are in front of me. I'm going to explain how to use, bricks and kicks. But the kids that are at home who aren't going to be in my class synchronously, I'm going to leave the Mote there so that they know exactly, they get the exact same thing that the kids in the classroom get. It supports learners no matter where they are. And that is a massive shift coming out of education right now, is being able to support students regardless of where they're learning. And Mote is such a great extension to support all of you who are in the Google Workspace arena. So download it, get it installed today. Again, Tricia walks you through that inside of the free PDF. Tricia actually has a video that goes more in depth about what does this look like and how do you use it. So we try to support you as much as we can because we love these extensions so much. Tricia, do you want to talk about some of the other free guides? You've made like 3 this week that other people can find as well. You've been on a tear this week.
Sure. And so again, the link that's going to directly take you to the guide that we're talking about today, that's in the show notes, that's in the video description, so you can go right there. Of course, when you head over to shiftingschools.com, you have our free guide library that has tons of free guides. I have noticed lately, the 2 that have been really popular are our free guide that's called Talks That Go Beyond the Tools. And this is a free guide that has lots of different reflective protocols that are meant to be used. Let's say your school has taken on a new initiative, or you're in a PLC that's trying out a brand new platform or brand new app. That guide is built with you in mind so that your team can reflect. And as the title says, it's not just about the tool, it's talking about how you went after that initiative, how you kind of really navigated the change management process. That's been very popular, which isn't surprising given that we're kind of coming up to the end of a term. And the other one that's been really popular are our 4 media literacy routines for the year, where Jeff and I take you through ways that you can build media literacy practice all year long. Because again, media literacy is important not just for Media Literacy Week or perhaps for like a school-wide day. We need to be having conversations around the stories that students are consuming, the ways in which they're engaging with social media. That has impact all the time. So I think it's really critical that we are addressing it all the time. And the routines that are in that free guide are intentionally designed to be explored in an interdisciplinary way. So it's not just I teach one subject, all of the responsibility is on my shoulders. It's looking at how you can spread it out across subject areas, across grade levels. So those are 2 that you might want to check out if you have not done so yet.
Yeah, there's, I don't know, 60 of them over there. So there's so many of them over there once you get over there. And again, they're all free. You just type in your email address, which you're going to give us anyway, because if you're on our mailing list, you get these right when they come out. They come to your inbox whenever Tricia continues to make them. So you're going to want to do that. So again, Tricia, thank you so much. 3 Google Chrome extensions for you to be thinking about and using and playing with here as we come into what happens to be Thanksgiving week here in the US. We're kind of coming into that time period between Thanksgiving and Christmas, which is why we also wanted to do some of these free webinars, talk about these routines, talk about protocols. We're getting into that time of year in the term where there's a lot of reflection. If you need some protocols around reflections and getting kids to think deeper, that metacognition that we always talk about, check out our free resources. We got a bunch over there to support you as well. I'm going to put that scan code up on the screen one last time. There it is up in the top corner. You can scan that code and that will download today's presentation and be able to get you your free PDF guide. So we'll go with that. So thanks everyone for joining us. Really appreciate it. If you have any feedback on these webinars, please do hit us up on Twitter. Our handles are right there as well. Or you can always email us over at info@Shifting Schools. Tricia, thank you so much for taking time to join me today. I hope everyone enjoyed this Shifting Schools webinar. And with that, we'll see you all on the network.